Hey, I'm Ben Marshall and welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to show you how to calibrate the Festool parallel guides. This is an important process and step to making sure that you get nice parallel cuts and rips when utilizing the parallel guides, your favorite track saw, and a guide rail. If you've never heard of Festool's parallel guides, these are pieces of extruded aluminum that attach to the guide rail that enable you to get repeatable and accurate and consistent parallel cuts and rips on your project panels and materials. Now, whenever you purchase these, you can purchase these as a standalone item, meaning just the parallel guides, or you can order them as a set with the parallel guide extensions. Now, the difference between these two, the parallel guides enable you to make parallel cuts from around 6.5 inches up to about 25 inches. With the extensions, these allow you to make incredibly narrow cuts from 0 inches all the way up to about 6 to 7 inches. So if you are in the market for making, or if you have a need of making parallel cuts and rips and you don't own a table saw, or you can't bring a table saw with you to the job site, parallel guides are a great solution to that problem, especially if you already have a track saw and a guide rail. When you first get the parallel guides and the extensions, you have to calibrate them to the guide rail that you intend to use them on. If you have different sets of guide rails, it's probably a good idea to only marry these up with the same guide rail every single time. Or if you're going to be changing out guide rails, make sure you calibrate it just before use to make sure that you're not going to ruin any materials. Again, it's a very simple process, and you do have to calibrate the parallel guides and the extensions separately. But again, it's a very easy process. The materials you're going to need to do this is a panel that's at least 3/4 or 18 millimeters thick, a guide rail long enough to accommodate for the material or panel that you're going to be ripping, a large-ish flathead screwdriver, safety equipment, the parallel guides, the extensions if you have them, and the track saw powered up, ready to go with dust extraction. Now, it's very important to note that if you purchase these, that you cannot use the extensions on anything. You cannot hook these directly up to the guide rail without the parallel guides, which is why I recommend that if you're going to buy these for yourself or for your business, that you buy these together as a set. When you buy them as a set, at least off of Amazon, you save about $100 buying them together versus ordering these at once and then later down the road you buy the extensions. You're going to save yourself about $100. Currently, that's how it is on Amazon. So, having said that, let's get straight into the process of how to calibrate the parallel guides and extensions. Okay, the first thing that we're going to want to do is you want to create a clean reference edge for the parallel guides to reference off of. How the system works is that you trim off one edge, or you clean off the factory edge off of one edge of your materials. And then when we go to 0, we're going to measure and mark on our panel where we want the cut line to be, and then we're going to adjust the guide rail to meet and marry up to that line. So we have to have a clean reference in order to go off of. So we're going to take our guide rail, set it down along the edge with enough to just create a clean edge, enough for the blade to go through the material. Alright, now that we have a nice clean edge, now I'm going to measure from this clean edge. We'll make this a 12-inch panel. So take out my measuring tape. Again, measuring from the edge that we just cut, using this as a reference. The thing about woodworking is how important references are in everything that you do. You always want to know what you're referencing off of, whether it be square or a straight cut edge. So I'm making marks on my panel at 12 inches. And this is going to come into play whenever we calibrate the parallel guides to the guide rail. And I'll bring the camera in closer so that you can see it but I'm going to use these two 12-inch marks as a reference for the cut line on my guide rail. Okay, now that we have a nice clean reference edge and our panel is marked to the measurement that we want to rip it at, now it's time to install the parallel guides onto the guide rail. So to do this, we're going to flip the guide rail around. And we're going to grab the first guide rail. Now it's important to note that whenever you want to order these, that you can order these in imperial or metric. These are imperial. I kind of wish I had metric because that's what I like to measure with predominantly. However, it's available. So to install the parallel guides onto the guide rail, there's two green knobs that we need to engage. So we need to loosen this tab that's on the bottom, and we also need to unscrew this green knob that's on top. And then just to set it in place, we're going to line it up with the T-track rail. There's a small little tab that can be a pain to get on sometimes. It's certainly harder whenever you're trying to do it on video. And whenever we set this in, we're not too worried about the pillow guides being smashed up against the sides of our project material, because this is only for parallel cuts. It doesn't get us square cuts. So now do the opposite side. Okay, again, I'm not too worried about it being completely flush with the edge, because these two tabs, that's what's being referenced off of our cut edge. And so to make sure that the parallel guides are calibrated, it makes it easier, and I'll move the camera here in a second, to get one of these parallel guides off the edge, and then we're going to calibrate each side by letting the material kind of hang off the edge. And again, it just makes it easier to make the adjustments without something underneath. Okay, so I can see that the parallel guides are not calibrated, because as I have my stop set at 12 inches, I have my material marked at 12 inches. Whenever I move this parallel guide reference onto my cut edge, the edge of my guide rail, or the cut edge of my guide rail, and my mark do not match up. So that means that I need to calibrate it properly. And to do that, it's a very simple process. I'm going to loosen up the tab that's underneath, that green tab. I'm going to loosen this one, and then with a flathead screwdriver, I'm going to loosen this big flathead screw that's on top. And then holding the guide rail to the line that I need to cut, I can then adjust the guide rail reference to exactly where it needs to be. Tighten down this green knob, close the tab that's underneath, and then tighten the big flathead screw that's on top. And so now whenever I reference or pull the parallel guides up against the material, I know that it's touching here, and then I can check my cut line and to make sure that it's right on my mark. Okay, now that I made sure that I've calibrated this side, I went ahead and did the same process on the opposite side. My guide rails are matching up, my tabs are hitting the reference edge, and so now it's time to parallel cut my panel. Making sure that before I make my cut that my tabs are against the reference edge. And take the measuring tape, right at 12 inches, and right at 12 inches. Okay, now that we have calibrated the parallel guides, now we're going to attach and calibrate the parallel guide extensions, which is a much quicker process. and having parallel guides calibrated certainly helps out and makes it easier. And then we're going to flip it over. Now what's great about calibrating the extensions is that we don't necessarily have to worry about having material underneath. We can have it supported up just like this. So I'm going to take the positioning keys and then install them onto here. And when I set this in, you want to set it up right at the 0 mark. And these are, I don't know if ambidextrous is the right way to say it, but they can be on either side, so it makes it installing these and putting them on pretty straightforward and simple. So again, lining it up with the 0. Okay, next we're going to take our track saw, disconnect the dust extraction and the power. I'm going to set the depth all the way down, and then we're going to engage the fast fix and plunge the saw all the way down. And what I'm doing is, if this extension needs to be recalibrated, I'm using the tip of the positioning block, and this is going to hit, or I want it to just touch the tip of my sawtooth blade. So you want to have it at what some would call a kiss calibration. You're going to really want to make sure that I'm set at 0 with this. So it seems like it's just a little bit off. So what I'm going to do is these 2 Allen key bolts right here that's how you zero the guides down. So I'm going to loosen these up. And then position so that it just touches the sawtooth. And I can just barely hear it hitting that. And that's what we want. And you're never going to be cutting a 0 cut on this, because if that's the case, then you should just take it off the parallel guides and just rip it straight off the face. So now I'm going to do the same thing on this side. And I can just barely hear that tooth hitting the saw blade. Okay, and that is pretty much it. That is how you calibrate the Festool parallel guides and the Festool parallel guide extensions using your track saw and all the various tools that we covered earlier. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask or make a comment in the comments section below. I really love engaging with everybody that's into this channel, helping answering questions, maybe helping decide whether a purchase is the right thing for you or not. I really do love coming here and providing a little bit of value and helping you out in your shop. So if you enjoyed what you saw, make sure that you subscribe to this channel. I've always got videos that are coming out every month, and I will see you in the next video.